Isn't he always kind of an outlaw? Before we get to today's video, I want to take a moment to talk about Patreon. That's right, we are on Patreon now, and we have a bunch of tiers with a bunch of great rewards. You can subscribe and get things like early access to all reactions, depending on your tier, depends on which reactions you get early access to. You can vote on polls exclusive to patrons that will help determine future reaction series and more. You will get to just have various choices in terms of like getting to choose future reactions I react to, getting to choose first impressions I check out, all kinds of different rewards, and possibly more coming in the future. We're still new at this. We're still figuring things out. It's a process. It's a process. But we have multiple tiers, so whatever you would be able to donate, if you're able and willing to donate, is appreciated. It helps me out, it helps the channel out, it helps us grow. It's going to help just, standardly. It's just something new to check out. Plus, if you like getting the reactions early, that's also a plus. But it is optional. If you're unable to do it, that's completely fine. All reactions will come to YouTube just a little bit later, a week later or so. So, that all being said, thank you as always so much, and let's get on with today's video. And with that being said, hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to Zatoichi the Outlaw. So, this is interesting because I almost got the wrong one. And what I mean by this is, when I was going to get this, I was looking at my list. It's like I wanted to do a Zatoichi movie today. These are donation rewards for Venom, by the way. And I looked at my list, and it's like, okay, Zatoichi's Cane Sword. So I go to download that, but then I'm like starting to think about it, and it's like, wait, didn't I watch this one already? So I look on my I look on YouTube on my my list. And the last Zatoichi movie that I have when I type in Zatoichi is the one before that. Something that, no, did I not see this then? But it's like there's this inkling in my head. So I look at my Letterboxd, because I put the movies in Letterboxd in the order that I watch them in and everything, obviously. And so I see it on there, and I see that I've rated it. So I look back again, and I'm looking back to see where it is compared to the movies that were around it. I'm like, oh, the reason why it wasn't showing up in the search is because the movie is listed as, like, it's listed for the November, like, random movie special we did. Back in November, we did a little thing where it's like I randomized for an entire week. It was it was like a monthly movie week. I randomized reactions to do. I used a spinner wheel site and randomized the reactions. I never like labeled them past that. So they still just say like November mystery movie #1 and stuff like that. And one of them was Zatoichi's Cane Sword. And so that's why I wasn't showing up in searches. But yeah, I did it. So we're on to Zatoichi the Outlaw. And like I said in the cold open, Zatoichi's kind of always an outlaw. That's like kind of part of his thing. Because of how he pretty much always fights for the little guy, and oftentimes ends up either scaring, fighting, or killing these like big political figures. Sometimes all three. It ends up being to the point where, yeah, he would be a wanted man. And we've seen that he is wanted. There's been a lot of these movies where it's like, oh, he's actually being like hunted down and stuff. And so this one is specifically titled this though. And I'm wondering if that's going to mean it's like it's going to focus on it maybe more than usual. The thing is, some of these movie titles aren't always the most accurate or like have the best summation of the film. Sometimes they're just random titles that were given to them that either barely have to do with the events of the movie or are so generic and vague they can mean anything. And I think I've talked about this before, but I think that the reason for this could just be because they pumped out so many of these so quickly that they just needed to name them and they just went with whatever. Weren't really thinking about it. But I don't know. I mean, I can't say for sure. I don't know, like, the reasoning for them doing anything specifically, but I'm definitely interested to see where they continue to go with these, as well as just the continued growth of the filmmaking and just how Shintaro Katsu continues to like improve on his performances, stuff like that. Um, but yeah, we're gonna get into this, see what this has in store, and hope for the best. So let's check it out. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. Welcome to the Afterthoughts, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, I'm very confused. The most of the movie, it's like, I get it, I get what's going on, I understand, like, the themes and messages, it's super dark compared to previous Zatoichi films. But there's one thing by the end that I'm really confused at. And that's Boss Asagoro. So we have two different halves of the film. The first half is Ichi in this town dealing with these Yakuza. He's a Yakuza himself at that point. And then the second half is some amount of time later. We don't know exactly how long. And it's the aftermath of what had happened before and just everything currently going down now. But the thing is, I swear, and I've looked at images of them. I've gone back and looked at the at the points in the movies and all where like the first half and then the second half. I swear to you that is not the same actor playing Boss Asagoro. And the thing is, the movie tries to tell us that it's not the same guy. It's like, oh, like Ichi mentions his voice, but he's like also like, oh, my hands must feel different and everything. Ichi's testing to make sure it's the same guy by listening to his voice and asking to touch his hands and everything. And he's like, oh, I know my hands must feel different. It's like, so we're just straight up saying that this is a different guy, but it never addresses that, and it acts like it is the same guy, but it's not. You look at these two, like, side by side, they're not the same actor. And not just because, like, oh, in the first part he has a beard and his hair is different. It's not because of that. The face is different. The face is entirely different. Everything about him is different, but it never addresses that. It never addresses, like, that he's, like, a fake Asagoro. And so you're kind of left in the end just kind of thinking that he's the real one. Even, like, right before he dies, right before he's beheaded, he's pleading with Ichi saying, I had to do it as if he's still like going along with this entire thing about like doing this out of necessity to like survive and keep going and all. Like as if he is Asagoro and he just changed his ways. But it's like again, I swear to God that's a different actor. He looks nothing alike between the two halves of this movie. So I don't know. I'm very confused by that entire thing. Um I don't know what they're supposed to be going for with that. But it's like they don't look the same, they don't sound the same. It's like that's just not the same person. And yet, like I was looking up like castings, and there's only one actor listed for Boss Asagoro, so it's like I don't know. I don't know. The only idea I could even possibly think of is that like the first and second half of this movie were recorded like at entirely different times, like years apart. But even then, again, he just still doesn't even look or sound the same, and I doubt that would change that much even with years apart. So I don't know. Um but outside of that, this movie was like a lot darker. It had a lot more gruesome blood and dismemberment and stuff. But even outside of that, a lot of the themes and messages like were dealing with some pretty heavy shit. You had two different characters committing suicide in this. The one that Ichi found hanging, and then Oshino, who threw herself off a cliff after, being like forced into um basically sexual slavery. And it's like a lot of these characters don't get a happy ending. Even even O'Hara, who does get saved and rescued, is not exactly pleased with everything that's gone down because of his pacifistic idealism. He's like it's not even a happy ending like between him and Ichi. It's very much like bittersweet at best. And I just I don't quite know like if this was something that Shintaro Katsu really wanted to do with this like series, and that's why he had his production company started and taking over the production for this and future movies. I don't know if he like just specifically wanted to take it in a much darker direction, but it's like it's a very fucking dark. Um the themes of like pacifism and everything of like and just not just pacifism but like trying to form like a better life for yourself and for the people around you through like getting rid of gambling, getting rid of drinking, not coveting women and stuff like that. It's an idealistic approach to trying to help people. And we see kind of like how despite having been a ronin, he no longer wields a sword, and how O'Hara that is very much like he and Ichi get along, but because Ichi is trying to stick to that kind of pacifistic idealism as well. And so at the end, when you see like he's disappointed by the fact that Ichi has, stained the ground with blood, you could see it's like that friendship, that camaraderie they had years earlier. And I'm assuming it's years. It seemed like it was supposed to be years later. But that camaraderie could never be repaired anymore. They're 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 just on two entirely different sides because you see Ichi kind of at the end. His statement is something along the lines of I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact phrasing of it, but something along the lines of well O'Hara says it's like it seems like you have stained the land with blood, and he's like in this case the blood or the land was calling for it or something like that. And it's clear that this is an Ichi who is like very distraught by everything that's happened, and especially by whatever the fuck was going down with Asagoro. And so with all of this, Ichi is kind of like at that point where very he's very upset, and he's taking it out on things and on people, on bad people still, but yeah, still nonetheless. And this also seems to be almost like a prequel to other films, because the first half of the movie clearly it takes place before most of the other films, if not all of them, because Ichi is a self-proclaimed yakuza at that point. And we know, like, again, the very first movie of this was after he had already left the yakuza. So what I'm thinking is that the first half of this film took place before he left, and took place when he was still, a yakuza and everything. And the second half takes place years later. He returns to here, and now things are notably different. And maybe that can explain whatever the fuck's going on with Asagoro's different look, but I still it's still just a different actor. It clearly is. But he comes back, and he's now a masseur. That's actually a big point. He's now, in fact, it actually looks like we find out when he became a masseur. It's specifically that point. And it's fascinating to me to see that, like, actual change occur. I think this is also the first Zatoichi film where we see, like, a direct, like, late point down the line of the consequences of Ichi's actions in a region. Because normally it ends with him defeating the bad guy, but, like, from the beginning, the bad guy from the start is defeated halfway through the film. And so then it comes back again years later to show, like, the consequences of those actions. And that's a fascinating idea. I don't think a Zatoichi movie has done that. On top of having, like, a notably huge time skip, you also have, like, that sequence that leads into it that is, like, this kind of musical interlude almost. And that's fascinating too. Just some really different choices made in the production of this film that really makes it, like, stand out. Um Overall, like, I really did enjoy it. I enjoyed the darker tones, as, like, fucked up and, like, really heavy as they could be. But the one thing that's just gonna keep sticking with me is Boss Asagora. Because again, I swear to you, I went back, I looked at Boss Asagaro before, I looked at the scenes with him before, I looked at scenes with him after. That is not the same actor. Like, again, whether you want to acknowledge that, oh yeah, the actor in the second half is wearing this, like, terrible bald cap. It's like, even if you're acknowledging that, it's like, it's still not the same actor. Even if you want to say, oh, but he could have just shaved, it's like, no, his face looks entirely different. It's not the same actor. And again, they made a point of pointing this shit out in the movie. Ichi noticing his voice and hands were different. It's not. It's very much implied that it's not even the same character. That it's someone pretending to be Asagoro. So it's just like, what the fuck? And yet they try to treat it at the end as if it is just the same guy, and it's like, oh my god, I don't understand. I genuinely don't understand. It throws me off, because it's like, it's such an important part of the movie, um one way or the other. And so it just feels, like, weird that it's, like, so, like, vague in how it's handled. Um and yeah, it's just, there's a lot of, like, other heavy shit. Like I said, like, with Oshino being sold into sexual slavery because she was denying the asshole who took her for his wife So him selling her into sexual slavery and her feeling unclean and like violated and defiled, and because of all the pain that it caused her, she ended up committing suicide. It's like, Jesus. Jesus fuck, that's intense and really upsetting. And even the other guy who committed suicide by hanging himself, I was thinking for a second, it looked like he was bruised up and stuff. So I'm thinking, like, maybe someone else did it. Maybe it was a murder instead. But no, it just ended up being he just hung himself. And it's like, oh, okay. Jesus. It was a very wild film for this series. Overall, I definitely would have to think more on it before I could come up with like a reasonable take, a reasonable like viewpoint. Especially in comparison to the previous films. But it's definitely one of those that I think is probably going to be more towards the center, at least based off this initial viewing. Partially for the confusion, and partially because it's like it was so dark that it was almost a little distracting. It might have been a little too dark. Um, though I did love how absolutely fucking terrible and fake the beheading was. Like, oh my god, that was so bad. It's like the body standing there was so goddamn fake. The head that was lopped off was so goddamn fake. It was so ridiculously fake. Which, you know, for the time and for like the budget of these films, it makes sense, but at the same time, it's like, wow, they didn't. It almost feels like they didn't even try. And again, I'm not actually like claiming they didn't. I'm just saying it's like that's how bad it was. Of course, I also do have to acknowledge this did still come out in the '60s, so to be fair, there is that aspect as well. But either way, I thought this was an interesting look into Ichi's life as a Yakuza compared to afterwards. I like that we actually got to see like half of this movie be a prequel to the other films, and the second half like showing the consequences of the actions he took. It's like that was a fascinating, really good idea. I really did like that. But either way, I would love to hear your thoughts on Zatoichi the Outlaw. Let me know down in the comments below. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.